How could someone be so cruel, mocking me openly just because I'm a gardener? My name is Benjamin. I'm 25 and I've spent my days tending this beautiful garden, quietly enduring the humiliating words of my boss's arrogant wife. But I always held on to my dignity. Every day she pointed, laughed, and treated me like dirt beneath her shoes, while I simply worked harder, hoping one day she'd see beyond appearances. But what she didn't realize was that life had a plan neither of us saw coming, and soon, karma would show her the truth she'd never forget. I stood there, humiliated, dirt smeared across my face from the soil I had carefully tended. She stood towering over me, her eyes narrowed with disdain. "Benjamin, do you even know how pathetic you look?" Mrs. Caldwell sneered, her voice echoing through the garden, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. My hands trembled slightly, gripping my gardening tools tightly as shame filled my chest. The wealthy guests gathered on the patio glanced toward us, their amused whispers slicing through me like knives. Heat rose in my face, mixing anger with embarrassment. I tried to steady my breathing, reminding myself that I needed this job. She laughed mockingly, turning elegantly on her heels, her high-pitched voice trailing off as she left me standing alone, the taste of humiliation bitter in my mouth. Despite the mistreatment, I always made sure the garden was perfect for Mrs. Caldwell's lavish parties. Every morning I arrived early, greeted by the gentle songs of birds, finding comfort in the earth beneath my fingers. One day I noticed a small, injured sparrow lying beneath the rose bushes, helplessly chirping. Gently, I scooped it up, caring for it tenderly in the gardener's shed. Each day, as I watered the flowers and trimmed the hedges, I nurtured the sparrow back to health. It became my silent companion, offering solace amidst daily humiliations. Quietly, I released it back into the sky, feeling a sense of warmth as I watched it soar free. Nature always reminded me of the dignity I held deep inside, no matter how others treated me. The next week, Mrs. Caldwell hosted another extravagant event. As I meticulously arranged fresh flowers on the patio tables, her voice snapped through the air. "Benjamin, is incompetence your only talent? These arrangements look cheap and disgraceful." The sharp words stung deeply, but I maintained my composure, adjusting the flowers quietly, focusing on breathing steadily. Nearby guests snickered discreetly, casting pitying glances my way. I felt a surge of frustration. I poured my heart into every detail, yet she never acknowledged it. "My apologies, Mrs. Caldwell," I responded softly, lowering my eyes. As she stormed away, her perfume lingered mockingly, an elegant reminder of the vast gulf between our worlds. My heart ached, yet I held on to the quiet dignity instilled by years of hard work. Each evening after my shift, I walked home through dimly lit streets, exhausted yet grateful for the brief moments of peace. On my way, I often saw Mr. Thompson, an elderly neighbor struggling to maintain his tiny garden. Without hesitation, I stopped by regularly, helping him plant vegetables and prune his overgrown hedges. He'd thank me warmly, offering me tea and wisdom in exchange for my labor. His gentle encouragement was a balm to my bruised spirit, reminding me that kindness could blossom even in the harshest conditions. Though the Caldwells saw me as nothing more than a servant, Mr. Thompson's grateful smiles restored my self-worth day by day. One afternoon, as I carefully pruned the hedges near the mansion entrance, I overheard Mrs. Caldwell speaking harshly to her daughter, Emily. Her voice echoed sharply, filled with familiar disdain. "Emily, if you keep associating with those below our class, you'll end up like Benjamin, a nobody." My heart sank, hearing those words, pity rising for Emily, who always greeted me kindly. Later, Emily quietly approached me, tears glittering in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Benjamin," she whispered, her voice trembling. I offered a reassuring smile, gently replying, "Your kindness is your strength, Emily. Never lose it." Watching her walk away, shoulders burdened, I wondered if my small words had planted a seed of resilience in her heart. the same way I nurtured the plants in Mrs. Caldwell's garden. I thought things couldn't get worse, but Mrs. Thompson seemed determined to prove me wrong. One scorching afternoon, I was trimming the hedges when she stormed into the garden, anger radiating from every step. "Benjamin!" she snapped, holding up her designer sandals covered in mud. "Do you realize how much these cost? More than your pathetic salary!" she hissed, eyes blazing. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry as dust under her glare, feeling the familiar sting of humiliation. "I'm sorry, ma'am," I muttered quietly, even though I had nothing to do with her muddy shoes. Her voice rose sharply, drawing attention from nearby workers and staff who stopped to watch the scene unfold. "You are useless!" she shouted, throwing the sandals at my feet, making my cheeks burn with shame. I felt a familiar ache in my chest, frustration swelling up like a tidal wave inside me. As she walked away, laughing bitterly, I heard whispers and saw pitying glances from my colleagues. Inside, I silently vowed I wouldn't let her crush my spirit. I had endured too much to give up now. Yet, as evening fell, I couldn't shake the lingering pain of her harsh words, replaying them over and over. The next morning, exhaustion weighed heavily on my shoulders, but I arrived early, determined to stay unnoticed. Yet Mrs. Thompson's hostility intensified, her cruel criticisms following me like a shadow throughout the estate. I meticulously planted a new row of roses, hoping their beauty might soften her demeanor. Instead, she laughed scornfully at my efforts, remarking loudly that a trained monkey would do better. Embarrassment heated my face, and anger stirred beneath my calm facade. Each insult chipped away at my confidence, but I clung desperately to my dignity, refusing to let her see my pain. At night, I sought comfort in tending my modest vegetable garden behind my small cottage, a haven untouched by her cruelty. There, amid rows of flourishing plants nurtured by my hands, I found quiet solace and renewed strength. Every new insult became fertilizer for my resolve, reminding me why I kept going. Still, doubt lingered. Would things ever truly change for me? Each sleepless night, I wondered if enduring this torment was worth the struggle. The estate held an annual gala, a glittering event filled with influential guests, and preparations were intense. Despite being exhausted and overlooked, I worked diligently to ensure the gardens appeared flawless. But as guests arrived, Mrs. Thompson spotted me quietly pruning the shrubs, and her face darkened instantly. "What are you doing here? Your presence is embarrassing," she hissed, grabbing my arm tightly, her manicured nails digging painfully into my skin. "Stay hidden. No one wants to see someone like you around," she sneered, her voice dripping disdain. Feeling humiliated yet again, I retreated silently to the shadows, bitterness rising in my throat. From the darkness, I watched the guests admire the beauty I had created, oblivious to my hard work. But then, amidst the lavish gathering, something unexpected happened. I overheard a conversation that stopped me cold. A wealthy guest, a man I'd seen only briefly before, spoke with admiration about the garden, praising the meticulous care evident everywhere. He asked Mrs. Thompson, who was responsible, genuinely impressed by the dedication he saw. She hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, before offering a dismissive lie that it was a team effort, avoiding giving me any credit. My heart sank at her deception, but a quiet ember of hope sparked within me, knowing at least someone recognized my worth. Encouraged by that fleeting acknowledgement, I quietly redoubled my efforts, determined to prove myself despite Mrs. Thompson's cruelty. However, her aggression only escalated further, as though she sensed my quiet rebellion. She sabotaged my tasks subtly, claiming I had failed at simple jobs, painting me as incompetent to her husband and others. Feeling trapped, frustration and anger simmered constantly beneath my calm exterior. One afternoon, while repairing damage she deliberately caused to my flower beds, I spotted her staring at me coldly from a balcony above. The contempt in her gaze burned, yet I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. When she finally left, my shoulders slumped in momentary defeat, tears of exhaustion and helplessness stinging my eyes. Why must she do this to me? I whispered bitterly, my voice trembling. Yet as I wiped sweat from my brow, a powerful quote my father once shared echoed clearly in my mind. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Rumi. Those words ignited renewed strength in my heart, reminding me pain could be transformed into purpose. Days later, as I tended my vegetable garden, a shadow fell across the neatly tilled earth. I turned to find Mr. Thompson standing quietly behind me. Startled, I rose quickly, unsure what to expect, anxiety tightening my chest. "Benjamin," he began slowly, his expression unusually gentle. "I've noticed how hard you work, despite my wife's behavior." Surprise rippled through me. I hadn't expected kindness from him, of all people. He sighed deeply, looking troubled, then admitted softly, "She wasn't always this harsh. Life has hardened her, but that's no excuse." His honesty caught me off guard, and I felt a strange sense of relief knowing someone acknowledged the injustice I faced. Then he quietly handed me an envelope, his eyes serious and filled with genuine concern. Inside was a significant bonus and a heartfelt note praising my resilience and integrity. As he walked away, I stood there stunned, the envelope trembling slightly in my hands. This surprising act of kindness was the first genuine ray of hope I'd felt in a long time. But questions swirled urgently in my mind. Would this generosity change things, or merely provoke greater wrath from Mrs. Thompson? After Mr. Thompson's unexpected kindness, I felt cautiously optimistic, yet my daily reality remained harsh. Mrs. Thompson seemed even more enraged, sensing a shift she could neither control nor accept. Her harassment became relentless, criticisms sharper, humiliations public and increasingly cruel. One afternoon, she deliberately spilled her wine over a flower bed I'd just carefully nurtured. I knelt silently in the mud, anger and frustration bubbling dangerously beneath my calm facade. "Oops, how careless of me," she sneered sarcastically, her voice dripping malice. Onlookers glanced away awkwardly, embarrassment and sympathy written across their faces. Humiliation burned hotly through me, yet I steadied my breathing, refusing to react. As I silently cleaned the mess, my pulse pounded with suppressed rage and hurt. That evening, alone in my cottage, I struggled with despair, wondering if Mr. Thompson's gesture had unintentionally worsened my situation. Yet somewhere beneath the pain, a stubborn determination remained alive, urging me forward. Despite my best efforts to remain composed, Mrs. Thompson's attacks escalated further, testing my resilience. One evening, after an exhausting day, I discovered my vegetable garden trampled, plants destroyed maliciously. My heart shattered at the sight, tears stinging my eyes as I knelt amidst the devastation. This sanctuary had been my refuge, my source of hope, and now it lay ruined, another victim of her cruelty. Rage surged within me, my hands trembling, but I forced myself to breathe, remembering the strength of my father's wisdom. Carefully, I salvaged what I could, each broken stem reinforcing my resolve not to be defeated. That night, sleep evaded me as I considered confronting Mrs. Thompson directly, but fear and self-doubt held me back. Am I strong enough to endure this? I wondered quietly, my heart aching deeply. Yet even amidst despair, a small, resilient voice whispered that this darkness couldn't last forever. Determined to rise again, I began painstakingly rebuilding my garden. Each seed I planted an act of defiance against her cruelty. As weeks passed, the strain took a toll, yet small victories slowly emerged. Other employees quietly offered gestures of support, subtle acknowledgments that I wasn't alone in my struggle. Each kind word or sympathetic nod strengthened me, reminding me my battle mattered. Yet Mrs. Thompson remained a formidable adversary, her hostility unyielding, refusing to concede even an inch. One rainy morning, drenched and exhausted, I accidentally damaged a valuable garden statue while hurrying to complete her demands. She erupted furiously, publicly berating me before the entire staff, calling me incompetent and worthless. I stood silently, humiliation and shame burning deep in my chest, my fists clenched tightly at my sides. Her voice echoed viciously, drowning out my protests, painting me unfairly as careless and disrespectful. I retreated later to my cottage, feeling utterly defeated, questioning again my strength to withstand this endless abuse. But amid that overwhelming darkness, I found clarity. I could no longer remain passive. Something needed to change. Enough, I whispered determinedly, finally resolved to seek guidance on how to end this cycle of torment. A few days later, an older gardener named Samuel, who had observed everything silently, approached me gently. His calm presence immediately soothed my troubled heart, offering comfort without words. "Benjamin," he said warmly, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder, "I've watched you face storms few could endure." His kindness nearly broke the dam within me, tears threatening as I struggled to speak. He continued softly, "But storms don't last forever, and neither does cruelty." He shared a profound truth, one he'd learned through decades of hardship. "It is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light." Aristotle. Samuel encouraged me to reclaim my dignity, advising me not to fight hatred with anger, but instead rise above it through integrity and patience. His wisdom resonated deeply, igniting within me a profound sense of empowerment and clarity. I realized then that I could no longer allow Mrs. Thompson to define me. My strength was mine alone to reclaim. Inspired and invigorated, I thanked Samuel deeply, feeling ready to embrace the difficult path ahead. Guided by Samuel's powerful advice, I began gradually shifting my mindset and actions, finding new strength daily. I focused on responding to Mrs. Thompson's cruelty with calm dignity, refusing to let her provoke my anger. Surprisingly, my composed reactions unsettled her, weakening the power she once held over me. Each day became a small victory as I reclaimed control, my confidence growing steadily. I dedicated my energy to restoring the gardens beautifully, letting my work speak louder than her harsh criticisms. Other staff noticed my transformation, and subtle shifts occurred, respect quietly replacing pity in their glances. Even Mr. Thompson, noticing the change, discreetly praised my resolve, boosting my determination further. Yet I remained cautious, aware that Mrs. Thompson's anger still simmered dangerously beneath her polished facade. Samuel continued offering quiet support, reminding me to stay true to myself and trust the process. Hope returned slowly, its fragile presence reminding me of my worth and strength. As I worked tirelessly, a lingering question remained. Could my transformation finally change my destiny, or would Mrs. Thompson's cruelty prevail? With each passing day, I felt increasingly empowered by my quiet rebellion, finding strength I never knew existed. My gardening flourished brilliantly, every bloom symbolizing resilience and quiet defiance against Mrs. Thompson's cruelty. One afternoon, I overheard visitors openly praising the magnificent gardens, attributing their beauty entirely to my care and passion. A surge of pride filled me, validating my struggles and confirming the path Samuel guided me toward was indeed the right one. Yet Mrs. Thompson, enraged by my growing recognition, doubled her efforts to undermine and belittle me, desperate to reclaim control. Despite her attempts, her insults lost potency, each harsh word strengthening rather than diminishing my resolve. Quietly, my dignity restored, I found that her venom no longer penetrated my newfound armor of self-respect. Samuel watched proudly from afar, nodding knowingly when our eyes met, silently celebrating my victory. Yet even as I grew stronger, a nagging doubt lingered. Could I truly find lasting peace while still trapped beneath Mrs. Thompson's shadow? Determined to face whatever lay ahead, I prepared myself, unaware that the greatest shock was yet to come. Then, one morning, everything changed dramatically. News spread quickly of Mr. Thompson's sudden financial ruin. Apparently, reckless investments had collapsed, leaving their wealth and status completely shattered overnight. The mansion's staff whispered anxiously, uncertain about the future, fear clouding their eyes as Mrs. Thompson spiraled into despair. In a moment of chaos, I glimpsed her sitting alone, head in hands, sobbing, an image of vulnerability I'd never expected to witness. My initial reaction of shock quickly turned to complex emotions, conflicted between empathy for her pain and the memories of her relentless cruelty. As reality settled, my thoughts churned. Could I forgive someone who had caused me so much suffering now that fate had humbled her? Samuel's wisdom echoed clearly in my mind, focused to see the light, challenging me to rise above bitterness and embrace true compassion. Yet, deep inside, uncertainty gripped me, struggling to reconcile my hard-earned strength with a moment that demanded extraordinary grace. Was it possible to offer kindness to someone who showed me none? Or would my own heart harden in resentment? That night, sleepless and conflicted, I pondered my next move, realizing my decision could define who I truly was. Days passed, tensions mounting as I observed Mrs. Thompson's escalating distress, her desperation increasingly visible. Finally, she approached me hesitantly, eyes downcast, voice trembling as she asked if I could help sell the valuable plants I'd grown to recoup some funds. Surprised by her humility, yet cautious, I agreed, carefully gathering the most valuable specimens, driven by duty and dignity rather than revenge. Together, we faced potential buyers, each interaction painfully awkward, her once arrogant demeanor replaced by fragile humility. Yet throughout it, she avoided my gaze, the weight of unspoken apologies heavy in her silence. Slowly, I saw the human beneath her previous cruelty, a woman afraid, broken, forced to confront her own harsh reflections. Samuel encouraged me gently, reminding me quietly, "Forgiveness frees your heart more than it does hers." Despite the turmoil within me, I decided to act with compassion, recognizing that holding on to anger would ultimately imprison me. But could forgiveness truly heal wounds as deep as mine? Or was this kindness simply another form of weakness? Each step I took tested my resolve, inching us closer to a climax neither of us saw coming. Eventually, the final blow arrived. Forced to sell their luxurious home, the Thompsons faced a stark new reality. On their final day, Mrs. Thompson stood quietly by the gardens, eyes tearful, reflecting on all they had lost. Approaching cautiously, I offered her a rare flower I'd carefully cultivated, one she'd always admired secretly. She stared at me in disbelief, eyes widening, voice breaking softly. "Benjamin, after everything I've done, why?" I paused, emotions surging within me, finally responding gently, "Because bitterness would make me no better than those who hurt me." Her tears fell openly now, overwhelmed by guilt and gratitude, her previous arrogance utterly shattered by authentic humility. Witnessing her genuine remorse softened my heart further, affirming Samuel's profound wisdom about forgiveness and inner peace. Silently, we stood together in quiet reflection, two souls deeply marked by their shared yet vastly different journey. In that profound silence, I realized my true victory, freedom from the chains of resentment, finally able to move forward unburdened. Yet, as Mrs. Thompson turned to leave, uncertainty lingered. Had my forgiveness truly changed her, or was this only temporary? Months later, I stood proudly in a lush community garden I'd created, teaching children about plants, nurturing both nature and kindness. My journey had transformed me profoundly, scars now symbols of strength and resilience rather than pain. Unexpectedly, Mrs. Thompson appeared quietly one afternoon, dressed simply, offering her sincere apologies and gratitude for my compassion. Emotion filled my heart, our roles reversed as I stood tall, dignified, no longer defined by my past suffering. She handed me a small gift, a beautiful garden tool engraved simply with, "Thank you for teaching me humility." That gesture affirmed my healing completely, symbolizing redemption, forgiveness, and the powerful victory of compassion over cruelty. Turning to the audience watching now, reflecting deeply on my journey, I ask sincerely, If you've ever struggled with forgiveness or found strength after injustice, please comment your experience below. Your stories inspire me deeply. Remember to subscribe, share, and join me again soon for more journeys of resilience. As I watched Mrs. Thompson walk away, hope filled my heart. Could true change really last, or would the shadows return? Only time would tell, but I knew one thing clearly. My heart was finally at peace, stronger than ever, ready for whatever came next.